Hi, I'm Emily Jean Hedges, and welcome to my Refresh and Restore Yoga series. You can practice here with me in person in San Francisco in the Elephant Studio, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. I'll be posting these videos about once a week so they can practice along at home anytime, especially if you're not based in San Francisco. These classes are all pay what you can, they're donation based. All the proceeds will go to two San Francisco organizations, Rise Yoga for Youth and the Center for Families at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital. You can find information in the video description about how to Venmo me donations, links to the two organizations, and you can also find a link to the Spotify playlist if you want some music in the background. The Refresh and Restore classes are 90 minutes long. About 60 minutes will be active movement with a strengthening component. The last 30 minutes or so will be restorative poses with support from props meant to be restorative, restful, meditative. So you want to grab some props for today's class. They don't have to be traditional props. Instead of a bolster, you can grab pillows. Instead of a yoga blanket, you could grab towels or a blanket off your couch. Instead of blocks, maybe use books or boxes. Be creative, have fun, and I hope that you enjoy class. I hope that you're able to support these organizations, and most of all, I hope that you feel refreshed and restored. We'll begin practice today in Virasana, Hero's Pose. Knees together, feet apart on either side of the hips. Sit on whatever is going to be most comfortable for you. That can be a blanket, block, bolster, several of each, or it may be on the floor. You can take your hands to your calves to move some of the flesh out of the way, but just be careful not to tweak your knees. Find a comfortable spot for your pelvis so you're not tucking under and you're not spilling forward, something kind of in between. Bring your hands to your hips to help you ground down into the support, lengthening the spine up and away. You can take a hand to your chin, one to the back of your neck to lengthen through the back of the neck, not tucking your chin or pushing the head forward. And then traditionally you can take your hands onto your feet, fingers in line, facing the toes. And just begin to notice your breath. What's the shape of it right now? What do you feel in your body? How's your mind feeling? Is there a way that you'd like to feel today coming off of your mat after practice? When you're ready, you can go ahead and take your arms out in front of you and overhead, palms facing each other. Inhale, lengthening up out of the ground, and exhaling, twisting to the right, bringing the right hand down behind you on the ground, the left hand to the outer side of the right knee. Inhaling, lengthening from the low and mid back up toward the sky, and exhaling, twisting from that space. Inhaling the upper back across the shoulders, lengthening, and exhaling, twisting from the upper back across the collarbone. Inhaling, lengthening the neck, and if it's okay, exhaling, twisting the neck to the right, looking over your right shoulder. With each inhale, can you lengthen, and each exhale, twist a little bit forward to the right, right shoulder back, left shoulder forward. Notice your left seat. It might feel lighter than the right seat. If it's okay, can you even out the weight between the left and right sides of your seat? Arms are straight, strong and firm, but they're not providing the full support for your upright position. The strength of that is coming from your torso. The space between your eyebrows, soft. And on an inhale, you can bring the arms back up and overhead, exhaling, facing in towards center again. Inhaling, lengthening, arms towards the sky. And exhaling, twisting down to the left, bringing your left hand down to the floor behind you, right hand to outer side of the left knee and thigh, back of the hand on the thigh, gently pushing in, inhaling, lengthening the mid and low back, and exhaling, twisting to the left from the mid and low back. Inhaling, lengthen to the upper spine, and exhaling, twisting left shoulder back, right shoulder forward. Inhaling, the back of the neck long, exhaling, twisting the neck to the left, finding a point to gaze at, steadily and softly, not hating that we're sitting in this twisted Virasana pose for several more breaths. Can you find some contentment, some rising with each inhale, and a little bit more twist engagement with each exhale. Notice if the breath has changed at all since just moments ago when you started practice. Has the mind started to change either? On your next inhale, you can bring the arms back up and overhead, and exhale, coming back to center. And bringing the hands down, you can come forward and off of your props, and we'll move into Baddha Konasana. You can keep the same set of props that you just had. Soles of the feet together, knees out wide. You want your knees below your hips. So if your knees are coming up above the line of your hips, maybe you want to choose something a little bit taller to sit on. Soles of the feet together, bringing them further in towards your seat. When you found a comfortable spot, you can bring your arms out long, straight, the backs of the wrists or forearms on the inside of the knees, and pressing firmly out and away from the center line of the body, from to left and right. Don't press the knees down, but by pressing out to left and right, you'll bring the lengthening across the groin, which will actually allow your knees to come down over time. Inhaling, making sure your spine is long, back of the neck long, crown towards the head, chin is level with the ground. Pushing firmly through the soles of the feet into each other. This will further help the knees move out left and right and down over time. When you're ready, bring your arms out in front of you. You can clasp your hands, turn your palms out and away from you. And on an inhale, you can bring the arms up and overhead, only going so far as you can without letting the knees rise too much, without tucking the chin towards the chest, without letting the front of the ribs poke towards the ceiling. So keeping the knees roughly where they are by pushing through the soles of the feet into each other, keeping a tight corset around the front of your ribs, keeping your chin level, palms up towards the sky, but your arms don't need to be straight up. Only go as far as you can keep the integrity of all of the other pieces. My arms aren't all the way up, as you can see. On each inhale, lengthening and pressing the palms up and towards the sky. Exhaling, pushing into the soles of the feet, widening out across your knees. Going through your checklist with each breath. Soles of the feet, knees, seat is even, pelvis is not tucked, not spilling forward. Back is long, front of the ribs are down and in, chin is level, back of the neck long, crown of the head towards the sky, palms pushing up towards the sky and sucking the arm bones in towards your ears. and not letting the shoulders creep up to your ears. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and begin to exhale and lower the arms gently down to your knees, taking your hands to either side of the outside of your knees to help bring your legs safely back up in towards each other. And coming down onto your back, bringing a strap with you. The strap can have a loop in it, or you can just wrap it around the right foot. Both feet on the ground, but taking the right foot up towards the sky, strap between the ball of the foot and the toes, right leg straight, and begin to rotate the whole leg. So pointing the toes to the right, and then pointing the toes to the left, toes to the right and the left. Just beginning to wake up the hip joint, beginning to wake up the back of the leg by having the toes pointed in towards the face. Now pointing the toes towards the ceiling and then pulling them in towards the face, using the strap to just bring a little bit of tension and resistance to the motion. Pointing the toes towards the ceiling and back in towards the face. A couple more times. And then pulling the knee down into the chest, waking up the knee joint, bringing some mobility and awareness to it. And then if you're ready and you'd like, you can bring the left leg out long and taking the right toes out towards the right a little bit, and then taking the whole right leg out towards the right, keeping the leg straight, only going as far as you can while keeping the left thigh, hip, and shoulder on the ground. You can use your left hand on your hip to help ground you. And then you can start to glide the right leg across to the left, across the body and back to the right, across the body to the left and then back over to the right. You can play with, as you bring the right leg across to the left, pointing the toes and then bringing the toes back towards the face as you go to the right. Bringing the left foot back in, foot on the ground, strap off of the right foot and switch it up, placing the strap between the ball of the left foot and the toes. Find a comfortable spot and begin to rotate the whole leg, toes pointing to the right and to the left of the room, to your right and to your left. You can really see that movement coming from deep within the hip joint, the whole leg moving as one piece. And then play with pointing the toes, flexing the toes towards your face, noticing already if there's any difference between the two sides. Notice if there's any difference in how you feel right now as compared to the beginning of practice. And then bringing the knee in towards the chest and up towards the sky, knee in towards the chest and up towards the sky, waking up the knee joint. And taking the right leg long if that's okay, keeping the whole right side of the body on the ground as you point the left toes out to the left, taking the whole left leg out to the left. Pausing there for a moment, grounding the right side of the body, using right hand on your hip if you'd like. And then glide the left leg across to the right, back over to the left. You can play with pointing the toes as it comes across to the right side and flexing the toes back towards the face as you come back towards the left. The whole time keeping everything else on the ground, steady and strong and stable as you're gliding the foot and the leg back and forth. As you bring the left knee back in, bring the right knee back and foot back to the floor, removing the strap, and rocking and rolling, or however you would like to get up and joining us in a tabletop position. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, inhaling, looking forward into cow pose, exhaling into cat pose, tucking under, inhaling, drawing your hands back, collarbones broad, exhaling, belly button into spine, pushing through your hands, inhaling, looking forward, dropping your chest, exhaling, pushing your chest up towards the sky, inhaling, looking forward, cow pose, exhaling into cat pose, tucking your tailbone, inhaling into a neutral spine, right leg long into a plank pose, getting long and steady, lifting the right heel up to hip height. You can choose to take your left arm out long, lengthening from fingers to the heel, keeping the body steady, bending the right knee so the bottom of the foot is towards the ceiling and pressing up, pulsing like you're kicking the ceiling with your right foot. Trying to bring all the movement really just from the back of the right leg, keeping the core steady, stable, the hips level, the arms straight and long out in front of you. Lengthen out so the leg is long now. And bring the left hand out to the left, the right leg out to the right, almost into a kind of half snow angel type pose here in a tabletop position. Bringing them out to the side. The right toes can point towards the front of the room as the right leg rotates, and bringing hand and knee back to the ground. Exhaling into a cat pose, inhaling back into neutral. The left leg goes long into a plank position, toes tucked on the ground, and lift the left foot up to hip height. Right arm, if you choose, out in front of you, lengthening through the body. And then bending your left knee so the left bottom of the foot is pushing up towards the ceiling and pulsing, kicking the ceiling, trying to bring all of the kick from the back of the leg, everything else long and stable. Looking forward to your right hand. Your right hand can hug in towards the midline of the body to help stabilize you. And another couple pulses. And then stretching foot away from hand, making the body as long as possible, and then left foot out to the left, right arm out to the right. Left toes can point kind of off towards the front of the room as the foot rotates out to the left, sweeping out, and then back into the center line, sweeping out, back into the center line, and then hand and knee down, pushing back into a child's pose. Rest here with knees apart, toes together, hands out in front. It also might be a good time for you to take off a layer if you've started to warm up. Just taking a moment here to reset, and then whenever you're ready, joining us in a plank pose, just to find the right distance between the hands and the feet to push back into a downward facing dog. Pushing evenly through the hands, the point between your thumb and your pointer finger, feet hips width apart, the back long, the neck dropping down towards the ground. You can inhale into a plank pose just to reset for a second, and exhale back into downward facing dog again. Inhaling the right leg up and towards the sky, pushing through the right leg, keeping the hip points even, pushing evenly through both hands, both shoulders. See if you can keep the right side of the body facing towards the ground as you exhale, bringing the right knee into nose, inhaling the right leg long towards the sky, exhaling right knee, right elbow, looking forward, inhaling the knee, the leg towards the sky, exhaling, right knee, left elbow, inhaling towards the sky. And continue with that, or exhaling, knee to nose, and holding for a breath, looking forward for the inhale and the exhale. And then on an inhale, right leg reaches up and back towards the sky. Exhale, right elbow, looking forward, staying if you would like for the inhale. You can always bring your right knee or your left knee down to the ground. Inhaling the right leg up towards the sky. Exhaling across the body to your left elbow, looking forward, staying for a breath. Inhaling the right leg back up and towards the sky. Pause here and then take the right toes out towards the right, bringing the whole right leg out, so you're almost pushing the right foot into the wall towards your right, and begin pulsing the leg up and down. So you're in this kind of peeing on the fire hydrant pose again, pulsing, pushing it down evenly through both shoulders. And you can bend the right knee and bring the foot towards the seat, just for a little hip opening. Right leg back down to the ground, and on your next inhale, left leg up and towards the sky, pushing long through the left side of the body, spinning the left side down towards the ground, evenly placing weight through both hands, shoulders, hips. Exhaling, knee to nose. Inhaling, left leg back up towards the sky, left knee, left elbow, looking forward, inhaling, back up towards the sky. Exhaling, left knee, right elbow. Inhaling, left leg to the sky. Exhale, left knee to nose, staying for the breath, looking forward while keeping the knee hugging in towards the belly. Inhaling, left leg high. Exhaling, left elbow, looking forward, staying for the breath. The right heel squeezing up into the right seat. Inhaling, the left leg high, just one more side. Bringing it to the right elbow, across the body, looking forward for the inhale and the exhale. Inhaling, the left leg back up and towards the sky. Lengthening out, pointing the left toes out to the left, bringing the whole left leg out towards the left wall, pulsing the leg up and towards the sky, keeping strength in the right side of the body as you pulse up and up. And then you can open up the hip, the left hip, bringing the right foot back and towards the seat, and then the left foot down and towards the ground. Slowly walking the hands back towards your feet and coming into a ragdoll position at the back of your mat. So your feet can be hips width apart, a little bit closer if you'd like, knees bent, clasping your elbows with either hand, letting the back of the neck really lengthen and release down to the ground. And switch the cross of the arms, so bringing the other forearm in front of the other. You can shake your head no, nod your head yes, sway the hips from side to side, giving the backs of the legs a little bit of release here. When you're ready, grab your strap, make a loop with it and step into that loop. Bringing the loop about up to mid-thigh height, cinching it tight, but not so tight it's going to cut off your circulation. Just want it to stay in place and provide some resistance. So standing upright into your mountain pose. Hands on the hips. Inhaling, pushing into the ground, pushing into the strap with the outside of your legs. And then exhaling, releasing. Inhaling, lengthen up towards the sky, pushing in the strap like you're going to Hulk out of it. Exhaling, releasing. Inhaling, pulsing the strap out and away. Exhale, releasing. Keep pulsing. Keep breathing. So whenever you're ready, you can lower the strap down to the ground, carefully step out of it and place it off to one side. And join us back in mountain pose. Bringing a little bit more weight into the left foot and kicking the right heel up to the seat, grabbing the right foot ankle shin with the right hand. Do a quad stretch, stretching across the front of the right thigh. The left arm can come up towards the ceiling. And challenge yourself as you release the right hand. Can you keep the heel pulling into the seat for a second before you bring the right foot down to the ground? Root into the right foot. Lift the left heel immediately up to your seat, grabbing it with your left hand. Right hand up towards the ceiling. Left knee pulling down to the ground. Left heel into the seat, even as you release the left hand from the left foot ankle. See if you can hold it there for a second. Both feet to the ground. Inhaling, exhaling, forward fold. Releasing and inhaling, halfway lift. Hands can come up your shins. Walking out into a plank pose. Shoulders over wrist, hips at shoulder height. Exhaling the right knee to right elbow. Sliding on the top of the right foot. Exhaling right elbow. And back. You can do this from a plank or a tabletop position with your knees down. And then just bringing the right knee into the right elbow still. It's a wonderful way to strengthen and build up. This takes a lot of strength to keep really stable on the left side as you're pulling the right knee in and back. Exhaling in. Inhaling back. Exhaling in. Inhaling back. Exhale, inhale, bringing the left knee in to left elbow now, inhaling back, exhaling, left knee, left elbow, keeping the right side of the body strong, steady, level, so not letting the right side dip down to the ground or lift up. It's more common to maybe drop it down to the right. Exhaling back, exhaling, inhaling back. Stepping back into plank, and then we'll lower down to the ground. You can do this from your knees for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just rest here for a second. Move into cobra pose so you can lengthen your legs out long behind you, pushing into the tops of the feet, the pinky side especially. Inhaling, pushing into the feet, the tops of the thighs, and bringing the chest off of the ground. Seeing if you can hover the hands, really using the strength of your upper back to lift you up. And exhaling lower. I'll come up again. Maybe choosing a different arm variation, but inhaling, pushing tops of feet, thighs into the ground, lifting up, maybe bringing the arms into a cactus shape. So kind of goalposts, and with each inhale, squeezing the arms up and the shoulder blades into the back, and exhaling, lowering down to the ground. We'll come into this pose one more time. You might choose one of those variations again, or you can bring your arms out long behind you, winging them, palms towards each other, like you're almost squeezing a block between them. Inhaling up. Each inhale, can you reach the crown of the head a little bit more towards the front of the room? And exhaling, releasing, and inhaling, lifting up. And then when you're ready, bring the hands, maybe stack them underneath your forehead for a rest. So you can bring your left hand to your left hip and start to inch your left knee out into the side. So the inside of your left knee will be on the ground, trying to bring it up to about hip height. And then the left ankle will be directly below the left knee. The left toes will point out to the left side of the room. So the big toe side of the foot is on the ground. Once you found a comfortable spot, you can use the left hand to roll the left hip more towards the ground and make sure it's not hitching up. So pulling the left hip down and away from the left ribs and the left shoulder. When you found that spot, you can bring your hand out in front of you, forehead on the ground or forward resting on your hands. And here you can stay and enjoy a pretty juicy stretch in this half frog on your left side. You can also intensify it by pulsing your glutes. So clenching your butt cheeks will push the pelvis down towards the ground, intensifying the stretch on the front of the left hip. You can pulse, so exhaling, clenching, and inhaling, releasing. Exhaling, clenching, and inhaling, releasing. And when you're ready, you can bring your left leg back out long behind you, carefully, pausing for a moment, and then right hand to right hip as you bring your right knee out to the right side, inner side of the right knee on the ground, about hip height, foot, ankle directly below the right knee, right toes pointing out to the right side of the room, the big toe side on the ground, rolling the right hip down to the ground, using the right hand to push the right hip level and away from the ribs and the right shoulder. And again, you can rest the hands above, maybe resting your forehead on your hands. And if you chose to take those pulses on the left side, you can do them on the right side. So pulsing, clenching the butt cheeks together and releasing, pulsing, clenching, and releasing. Noticing if there's any difference between the sides. And then when you're ready, slowly release the right leg back and behind you, tucking your toes, hands in line with your chest, and in whatever way, pushing up into a plank pose. If you want to add in a quick chaturanga push-up, you're more than welcome. A couple of them. You do these are certainly on your knees. Coming back up into plank and pushing the hips back into your downward facing dog. Beginning to walk your feet towards your hands. You can do this in an elephant walk, keeping the legs straight, palms pressing firmly into the ground, going as slowly as you can, taking these little steps. At any point, you can grab some props, like maybe your blocks, to help raise the floor to meet you so you can keep pressing in through the palms of the hands. This is a really great way to prepare for potentially some arm balances or handstands. Once you get your feet up and kind of in between your hands to either hips distance or closer together, you can bend your knees as much as you'd like to, and you need to grab onto your toes. See if you can interlace your fingers in between your toes, giving your toes a spread that they often don't get to do because we keep them in shoes and socks for most of the day. And then you can release into your forward fold. So inhaling, lengthening, pushing the Pelvis up towards the hip points up to the sky, lengthening across the back and exhaling. Forward fold, bending the elbows, releasing the back of the neck, releasing the shoulders down to the ground. Bringing a little bit more weight into the front of your feet, not dumping into the heels and the back of the feet. Go ahead and release the fingers from in between your toes. Spread the feet out a little bit wider, toes pointing away from you, coming into a Malasana squat. If you're comfortable there, you can bring your hands to your heart center. You may choose to take a block or something underneath your seat. Using Malasana just as a transitional pose, we're coming down onto our back, bringing a block with you, coming into tabletop position on your back, knees stacked over hips, shins parallel to the floor, arms straight up and overhead, firmly pressing into the sides of the block, lower back pushing down into the ground, inhaling and exhaling, bringing the block overhead, pausing for the inhale, and exhale, bringing the block back towards the sky, pausing for the inhale, moving with the exhale, the block overhead, pausing for the inhale, exhaling, block back overhead, pausing for the inhale, exhaling. You can now bring the right toes down to tap the floor if you'd like an extra challenge. Exhaling, everything back up to center, inhaling, pause, exhaling, left toes tap down to the ground, inhale, pause, exhale, back up to center. Inhale, pause, exhale, right toes tap down to the ground, block overhead, exhale, back up to center, inhale for the pause, low back pressing in the ground, exhale, left toes down to the ground, exhaling everything back up to center. Inhale, pause, exhale, right toes tap down. Is your low back still tacking down into the ground? Exhaling, coming back up into center. Pause and then exhale, left toes down to the ground. Exhale, everything back up to center. Exhale, right toes down to the ground, block overhead. Exhale, everything back up to center. Inhale, exhale, left toes tap down. And exhale, back everything up to center. Bringing your knees into your chest, placing the block off to the side. Just give your knees a little squeeze. Well-deserved squeeze after some of that hard work. Lengthening your legs out long down the mat, your arms overhead. You can clasp the arms together, so you might need to move to make sure you have enough space. Coming into a half crescent pose here. So as you're ready, keeping your ribs and your shoulders on the ground, walking your legs out to the right, walking your arms out to the right. So you're in this kind of C shape towards the right. To intensify the stretch along the left side of the body, you can bring your left foot up and over across the right ankle. Trying to keep the left hip, the left shoulder on the ground, the ribs, the front of the ribs pulling down and into the body, so you're not arching your back up in a way. This isn't a back bend pose. Breathing into the left side of the body. Stretching out. Letting the head relax down in between the arms. You can always undo the crossing of the ankles if that becomes too intense, or you can try to intensify it by pushing further into the left sole of the foot, like you're pushing into a wall. And on an inhale, you can slowly come back up to center, making sure you've done the cross of the ankles. And then on an exhale, you can start to bring your feet, ankles out to the left, arms staying close to the ground, hands close to the ground as you bring those out to the left as well, coming into a crescent shape. Toward the left side, you can bring your right foot up and over to crush your ankle, or maybe even stacking the heel on top of the toes on the left side to accentuate the stretch along the right side of the body. Making sure you're not crunching the left side of the body, so you can take your left hand and maybe gently push your left hip away from your left ribs and shoulders. You can use it to check to make sure your right side of your body is still firmly placed on the ground. The ribs are pulling down and in. You can always release the cross of the ankles early. And then slide everything back into the center line. Releasing the arms down to the belly. Rolling over to one side and pushing up into a seat. Folding your mat in half as you do so, and grabbing a blanket and placing the blanket down behind the folded mat. Bringing your knees onto the blanket, hands on the mat, right foot in between your hands into a low lunge position, right knee stacked right over the right ankle, keeping that alignment, pushing the left leg back behind you on the blanket. Only once you've found a good spot, not too intense, not too light, bring your hands to your knee, walking them up the thigh to bring your torso upright, tucking your pelvis like you did in cat pose earlier, and only then bringing the arms up above your head, palms facing each other, arms engaged, reaching towards the sky. Making sure your right knee is still stacked above your right ankle, pushing into your right heel, tucking your pelvis. Left knee pushing into the ground, left shin, left top of the foot even pushing into the ground. Inhaling, lengthening a little bit more up and out and away from your thigh bone. Maybe taking a little bit of a look upwards, a little bit of an arch in your upper back. And exhaling, bringing your hands back down to frame your right foot, sliding your left leg back in before you take your right knee back to meet the left. Bringing your left foot now in between your hands, stacking left knee over left ankle, making sure that placement feels good before sliding the right knee back on the blanket into a stretch. And only then starting to walk your hands up to your knee, up to your thigh, bringing the torso upright, tucking the tailbone down and underneath you, arms up, reaching, palms facing each other towards the sky, fingers spreading, pushing your left heel into the ground, left knee stacked over left ankle, tailbone tucked, right knee, right shin, right top of the foot pushing into the ground. Inhaling, lengthening up and away from the ground. And exhaling, settling in the pose, feeling the connection with the ground. Inhaling, looking up, maybe arching just the upper back towards the sky, keeping everything else intact. And then exhaling, bringing your hands down to frame your left foot, sliding the right leg back in towards the body and kneeling back onto the blanket. Now coming onto your back with your back on the mat, your bottoms of your feet on the blanket. Setting up for a bridge pose here, so feet about hips width apart, a little bit away from the seat. Inhaling, pushing down into the ground. Exhaling, lifting the hips up and away from the ground. Inhaling, getting steady and strong here. Exhaling, pushing the feet out and away from you, lifting the toes off of the ground, pushing the blanket away. Pausing for an inhale as you're out long, and exhaling, lowering the hips carefully back down to the ground. You can bring the blanket back in towards your seat. Inhaling, preparing, pushing down into the ground. Exhaling, lifting the hips up. Inhaling, preparing to push out on your exhale. Blanket away from your seat, toes up and away. You can either put the hips down or on your next exhale, pull the blanket back into the body. Inhale, and then on your next exhale, pushing the blanket out and away from the body. You can always put the hips down after you've extended to slide the blanket back in, or use the strength of the back of your legs to pull the blanket back in towards your seat. I like robot arms in my bridge pose, fingertips up towards the sky, pushing down from the elbows all the way to the shoulders. Really helps me to open up the chest and the upper back. So exhaling, feet out, toes up and away, so you're on your heels. Exhaling back into the body. And then bringing the hips back to the ground. You can widen the feet out, knees in towards each other, hands on your bellies for constructive rest for a moment. Just taking a moment to rest. Just finished the torture portion with the blanket. Rolling over to one side and push up. You can move the blanket off to the side and unfold the mat. Coming to stand wide-legged, facing one side of the room, so feet about 2 to 3 feet apart from each other, toes pointing towards one side. And then pivoting from the right heel, the right toes out along the long side of your mat. Pivot the left heels back and away from you, so the left toes are now pointing towards the front corner of the room. You can have your hands on your hips and play with tilting your pelvis from side to side, finding a nice neutral position before you bend into your right knee. Pushing through the pinky side of the left foot. When you're comfortable there, bring your arms out to the side, palms toward the ground, gaze over your right fingertips. And from here, instead of just sitting into your warrior pose, what happens if you pulse from the center line of the body, like you're drawing your 2 feet together, even though they won't move. It's like they're stuck in cement and you're trying to bring them together. Engaging all along the inside of both legs. As you pulse up, you'll lift up just a little bit, very subtly, and release it down. You can keep pulsing, and if you'd like, you can take your hands into my teacher Tony's Stop in the Name of Love pose by pointing the fingertips up towards the sky, pressing through the heel of the hand like you're trying to stop 2 walls from crushing you. Get a really nice stretch through the forearm with the hands in this position. You can keep pulsing. Bringing the arms back down. You can straighten the right leg. Coming back in towards the side of the room, toes out towards the side away from you, squatting down into a goddess pose. You can sway your hips from side to side. You can bring your arms out in front of you, clasp your hands, pushing the palms out and away from you. Bringing the arms up overhead like we did earlier. Inhaling, lengthening, pushing through the palms of the hands without lifting your shoulders too high. And exhaling, sinking lower, pulling the knees apart from each other. Bring your hands back to your hips, straighten your legs, pivoting from your left heel, left toes out, now towards the back of the room. Right heel back and away, so the right toes are pointing towards the back corner of the room. Hands on your hips and play with leveling out your hips, bending into your left knee, pushing through the right pinky side of the right foot. The twist towards the side really coming from your torso, not from your hips, and bringing your arms up and out to the sides. Gaze towards the front. And you can start to pulse up and down, trying to draw your feet together towards each other. If you tried it on the other side or you want to try it now, you can point the fingers toward the sky, pushing through the heel of the hand to stop the walls from crushing you in your warrior two. Keep pulsing, deepening, engaging in your warrior two. Are your shoulders creeping up towards your ears? Maybe relax them a little bit while keeping the engagement out and away from front to back. Bringing the hands back down to the hips, straighten your left leg. Back into your goddess squat towards the side of the room. This time for an extra challenge if you want to ramp it up a notch. Bring your arms out in front, lifting your heels. So lift your heels and adjust your heels, playing with the balance, playing with the control, playing with the fact that you just did a lot of work and your legs are probably pretty tired right now. You might be wobbly, you might be trembly. What happens if you smile in the pose instead of scowling? Just a couple more lifts. The heels, straighten legs, bring your toes to point towards the side of the room, maybe even pigeon toe them in a little bit and hinge from the waist, fold forward into a wide-legged forward fold. Bring the arms out in front of you so they're almost like in a downward facing dog, but you can be kind of on your fingertips. And keeping your hips in line with your ankles, you can begin to sway your hip from side to side, gliding, feeling a nice release on the kind of outer back side of your hip and your glutes. Keeping both feet firmly pressed into the ground, really moving from your hips, moving from your pelvis, from right to left, keeping the shoulders straight as well. You walk the hands back in towards your feet, roll up, and however you want to, hop, skip, step. Back to the front of your mat and coming into a plank pose. Pushing back into downward facing dog. We'll be coming into a forearm plank in a moment, so make sure you have enough room. You might want to walk up a little bit towards the top of your mat, slowly lowering your elbows at the same time down to the ground. Walking your feet back so your hips are the same height as your shoulders. Your hands can be clasped together, or you can have the forearms parallel to each other. Lifting the left leg off of the ground, heel up to hip height, pulsing up and then lowering down, pulsing up and lowering down. Seeing if you can keep the whole right side of the body steady, stable, and level, not moving the hips. Similar to what we did earlier in the hamstring kicks from tabletop. Placing the left leg down, the right leg up, pulsing the right leg towards the sky, keeping the left side of the body straight. And you make sure you're looking in between your hands or just a little bit ahead, so forward but not straining your neck. Just a couple more pulses. And then you can push your hips up, walk your feet in to a dolphin pose, letting your neck relax down in between your shoulders and your elbows. Enjoy the calf stretch, maybe here, maybe stretching your shoulders, bringing your knees down to the ground. We're going to move into our more supported, restorative part of the practice. So grabbing bolster, pillow, blankets, whatever you'd like to support you in a child's pose. So knees apart, toes in together, tucking the bolster maybe under your low belly so you can stretch out with the torso across it. If your seat is pretty far away from your heels or it's just not comfortable, you might try taking a blanket in between your calves in the back of your thighs, maybe folding it up a little bit. It can give some nice compression as well as lifting the calves up to meet your seat. And then pick a spot where you're going to be pretty cozy and comfortable. Maybe the head is turned to one side, so one cheek is resting on your support. Maybe play with the placement of the arms. Maybe turn them so the back of the hand is on the ground and the palm is facing towards the ceiling. Take notice of the shape of your breath now. How is it the same or different from earlier? You could even take the arms out behind you, letting the shoulders roll forward and down. Can you let the support of the ground beneath you do just that? Let it support you. Can you surrender a little bit into it? We did the work. Now can we enjoy receiving the benefits of that work? Slowing down. And these restorative poses, I'll guide you into them and then tell you if it's a good time, for example, right now to maybe switch the direction that your neck is facing, so maybe bring the other cheek to the support. But otherwise, I'll let you enjoy these quiet moments, and I'll keep track of the time, and I'll let you know when it's a good time to think about coming out of the pose and moving on to the next. But you're always welcome to stay. Bring back some awareness and decide whether now is a good time for you to move on to the next pose. If it is, you can bring your hands under your chest and slowly push up, removing the bolster out from underneath you. Grabbing some blankets of some sort as padding under your knees. You can place maybe 2 of them side by side along the long side of your mat. We're going to come into a supported full frog.
pose. So bringing your knees out onto the blankets, hips and knees in line with each other, the ankles behind the knees, and the toes pointed out and away. So the right toes out to the right, the left toes out to the left. And grab some kind of support to place under your torso, again, snuggling it into the low belly. Being slow and thoughtful here as you go into this very intense pose. You can de-intensify the pose by bringing the knees more into the midline so you're not spread out as wide. You can bring the knees away from your hips, so towards the back of the room. You can intensify the pose by pushing into your arms and actually pushing the hips back towards the knees. Choose what's going to be right for you. Choose the placement of the head that's going to be right for you. It might be forehead down, facing under the prop. It may be one cheek on the prop and you move it halfway through. This pose and some of these really big, deep hip poses can bring up some strange emotions, so just observe, notice what's coming up for you, being okay with that. Again, I'll be here and I'll be watching the time. So now might be a good time for you to come out of your frog pose. You can come onto your hands and push yourself a little bit more onto your bolster. Maybe use your hands to help inch your knees back in towards the midline of the body, walking the feet back and legs long behind you. Maybe pausing for a second just to recognize the intensity of that pose before you push up to a seat. and begin to prepare for a supported bridge pose. So you can move at least one of the blankets off to the side, bringing maybe the bolster or blanket, something that's going to be soft underneath the hips and low back. Your feet can be hips width, they can be wider. Your knees can be apart or they can be knocked in, touching each other or somewhere in between. The arms can be overhead in almost a cactus shape. One hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, both hands on the belly. And just until you find a space that's comfortable for you in your low back, for your knees, for your shoulders. Check to see if your chin is tucked in towards your chest, maybe taking your hands behind your head to lengthen the back of your neck. Try not to have any pillows or anything under your neck in this pose, not to strain it too much. And again, begin to settle. Taking an inhale and exhale, melting into the support. I'll be watching the clock. You're more than welcome to stay in this pose. It's one of my all-time favorites. If you're ready, you can roll over to the right side. Pause there, resting your head on your right hand. You don't have to come up as quickly as I did. I was just very eager to get my socks and my sweater on as I continue to cool down for the practice. Might be a good time for you to grab another layer too. When you're ready, you'll come up to sit and gather some props as we come into a supine Baddha Konasana pose. So soles of the feet together, knees out wide, but reclining. So one option will be to take a bolster the long way along your mat. And then you can take 2 blankets, 1 or 2, and place them at the top of the bolster to be a pillow for your head. And then make sure you have 2 blocks or something ready to place under your knees. And you can also, if you like, grab a strap or whatever you have handy. Make a loop with it and place that loop up and over your torso. Sitting with the low back against the edge of the bolster, you'll take the strap down and wrap it around underneath the feet. So the strap is around the low back, coming up and over the inside of the thighs and the calf, and then down and under your feet. You can cinch the strap so it's tighter and helping to pull your feet in towards your seat. Placing the blocks or blankets underneath your knees or thigh at a height that's going to be able to be sustained for, the 8 or so minutes that we're in this pose. When you're ready, you can recline back onto your bolster, making sure it's right up against your low back, resting your head on the blankets with your chin in towards your chest. You can take your arms out to the side or in another position that's going to be more comfortable for you. Reclining this far back may not be okay for you. It just may not be restful, especially for a long period of time, especially in your low back. So I'll come out of the pose and offer an alternative. You can remove the blankets and we'll steal the blocks out from underneath the legs. Set one up on the tallest height, about a hand's distance away from that. Set one up on the medium height. And then place the bolster carefully on top so it's creating a little bit of a ramp. And then you can replace the strap underneath your feet, readjust it. You can then use the blankets, if you'd like, under each knee, maybe folding them over again to give it a little bit extra height. And leaning back onto your bolster very carefully, just to make sure it's stable. You may find that if you hadn't grabbed an extra blanket or something underneath your head, this may still not be like the right pose for you because your head might not be comfortable. So you could actually take one of the blankets, unfold it so it's actually a little bit wider, and roll the long side of the blanket. Place it on top of the feet and then tuck the ends of the blanket underneath your thighs. So achieving the same purpose as the blocks or the blankets were before, and now you have a blanket free to place under your head. So wherever you've chosen to be for the next several minutes, releasing, observing where there might be tension and seeing if you can ease it a little bit. If you ever need to come out of it early, if something's not right, please do so. Listen to your body, but otherwise, stay here. I'll be watching the time and I'll let you know when it may be a good time to move on to our final pose. I'll invite you to come out of your reclining Baddha Konasana pose. If you can reach your buckle of your strap with one hand and loosen it to give a little bit more space to your legs to come out, you can do that. You can use your hands on either side of your knees to help lift your knees up into your body. Using your hands to push off the ground, to push up. Safely and carefully and slowly make your way up and start to move some of the props out of the way. I'll offer Stonehenge Shavasana for the end of practice, so you can take 2 blocks on their highest height, about a hand's width between them, and place the bolster on top, like a little Stonehenge. My favorite pillow for a blanket is taking the blanket as it comes off a stack at a studio, taking one of the edges with lots of the little edges, folding it about 3/4 of the way down, and then tucking the corners underneath. So it makes this really nice little pillow pocket for your head. I'm not very good at origami, so if you need to rewind that in and watch again, please do. When you're ready, you can take your calves up and over your bolster. If you're taller, you might actually want to add another bolster, some more blankets to give you a little bit more height. Letting your legs roll out to the sides. You might take a blanket and place it over your low belly for a little extra weight or warmth. You can take your hands out to the sides in a traditional Shavasana pose. I'll offer a guided meditation body scan through the end of the Shavasana today. So if you'd rather not listen, tune me out or mute me. Otherwise, take a deep inhale and then exhale. Release your breath. In a body scan meditation, I'll name different body parts. It's up to you to choose what you'd like to do as I name them. You can bring attention to them. You can give them a little internal mental massage. You can tense that muscle and then release it. Taking one more inhale and exhale, release it. Releasing control of your breath and bringing your attention to your right hand thumb, pointer finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, back of the right hand, palm of the right hand, right wrist, right forearm, right elbow, right upper arm, right shoulder, right chest, right waist, right hip, right front of the thigh, right front of the knee, right shin, right front of the ankle, top of the foot, right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, right bottom of the foot, right heel, right back of the ankle, the calf, back of the right knee, back of the right thigh, the right glute, the right low back, the mid back, the upper back, back of the right neck, right crown of the head, right forehead, right eyebrow, right cheekbone, right side of the nose and right lips, right jaw, front of the right neck, right center of the heart, the whole right side of the body, the whole right side of the body. The left hand thumb, pointer, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, back of the left hand, palm of the left hand, left wrist, left forearm, left elbow, left upper arm, left shoulder, left chest, left waist, left hip, left front of the thigh, left front of the knee, left shin, left front of the ankle, left top of the foot, left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, pinky toe, left bottom of the foot, left heel, back of the left ankle, left calf, back of the left knee, back of the left thigh, left glute, left low back, mid back, upper back, back of the left neck, left crown of the head, left forehead, left eyebrow, left cheekbone, left side of the nose and left lips, left jaw, left front of the neck, left center of the heart, the whole left side of the body, the whole left side of the body, the right leg, left arm, right leg and left arm, left leg, right arm, left leg and right arm, the whole body, the whole body. Start to bring awareness back to your body. You can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, roll your wrists, roll your ankles. When you're ready, you can bring the soles of the feet to the bolster, knees in towards the chest, rolling over onto the right side and pausing here. You can use the right arm as a pillow underneath your head. Taking a breath here. And when you're ready, using your left hand to help push you up, spinning the chest towards the ground, to help the right hand help you up too. Coming up to a comfortable seat. You can bring your hands into your chest, take an inhale. Thank you for practicing with me today. I hope you feel refreshed and restored. Namaste.